See a special tribute to Barry White on the Heaven and Earth show in an hour here on BBC One. After breakfast today with Peter Sissons.
Sky above Wimbledon is looking a bit grey this morning. We'll be back there later in the programme to see what it'll be like for the men's final this afternoon and for a full roundup of the day's weather. But first, she's probably one of the last great Hollywood legends. To millions of children, Julie Andrews is still Mary Poppins, even though the film was made nearly 40 years ago. Tragically, in 1997, an operation on her throat took away her voice. When I caught up with Dame Julie in London earlier this week, I asked her whether we would ever hear her sing again.
My guess is I doubt it. I have a wonderful deep bass voice of about 5 notes, and that's about it. There's a lot of work being done, not on me, but in terms of pioneering. I probably, though I'm heading up the research, I'm probably going to be too old or too occupied with a million other wonderful things to indulge, and I probably won't want to go back to singing again. I'd love to for my own pleasure, but professionally I probably won't.
Just remind us of what sort of a disaster it was for you.
Very simple. I'd done 20 months on Broadway, and 8 performances a week is killing. Done that in Victoria, and was asked to go on the road. By the end of 20 months, was having quite a lot of problems. I didn't want to go on the road, but was persuaded that it would really kick the show off to a whole new career of touring, and then it could travel elsewhere. So I agreed to do it for a very small amount of time, and my specialist at the time said, then you'd better just fix what I think is a cyst in your vocal cords. Everybody thinks I had cancer or nodules. It was nothing of the sort. So he fixed what he thought he should do, and he did a lot more besides, and the rest is history.
But one door closes and others have opened.
Well, life is extraordinary. It really is. I've never been busier, Peter, and I do wonder if I'd have embraced all the things that I'm embracing now, if that hadn't happened, because I'd be so busy doing concerts and performing and carrying on with that career. And
you're a best-selling author with a series of children's books.
Yes, I have. I've been writing for quite a long time, but I just recently have begun a new children's imprint, which is in fact a publishing imprint for children's books.
And you've done some big television in the United States.
Yes, and I have a film coming up this fall, which doesn't require me to sing. So, yes, and I've just finished 2 back-to-back movies for television.
And you're directing The Boyfriend.
Yes, the thing that the lovely piece of lace that took me to America in the first place, to Broadway. I'm going to have the thrill of directing it in Long Island, in New York, we open in about 5 weeks' time.
But that's where it really took off for you in 1954 on Broadway with The Boyfriend.
The Boyfriend was the beginning of really the sort of my career, which I'd had an enormous amount of touring and music hall and being a child brat and a performer, but that's when it really took off.
And then after that was Eliza Doolittle.
That's right.
Or 890 performances.
No, 1,500.
1,500, goodness me.
Warm face, warm hands, warm feet, how wouldn't it be lovely?
But then they didn't want you for the movie. They gave it to
Well,
Audrey Hepburn.
you know, in those days, I was only known on Broadway. In other words, I was a big fish in a relatively small puddle, and as far as the rest of America was concerned, they really didn't know who Julie Andrews was. And they tried. I know Alan J. Lerner said, I would love to use you for the film. He went to bat for me. But they did need, in those days, a big name. And Audrey, who was a great friend of mine, once said to me, she said, Julia, you should have done it, but I didn't have the guts to turn it down. And it was very dear of her.
But you had the last laugh because you barreled through with those two blockbusters, two legendary movies.
Well,
Mary Poppins,
thank
Sound of
heavens,
Music.
3 months later I was offered Mary Poppins. And so, again, ain't life grand?
I know exactly how you feel about these children, and if you think I'm going to keep my mouth shut any longer,
That will be quite enough of that, thank you.
I mean, they had an incredible impact. The Hollywood Reporter, newspaper in Hollywood, wrote, "This lady is not just this lady is not just a great star. She is a whole whirling galaxy. Once there was Mary Pickford, then there was Garbo, now there is Julie." You can't imagine anyone today being described in those terms.
No, I had to pay him an enormous amount of money to say that.
Yeah. But what was it? I mean, what do you think you have that the others didn't have?
I think I had the roles. That's what I'm trying to say, is that I think I got very, very lucky. But still, to have really had longevity is where I've been so fortunate, because quite often a career can just be over in a shot.
And the voice episode apart, incredibly healthy.
The secret is I have my mum's genes and my dad's genes, and my dad particularly, he was wonderful, you know, great country stock and fit and believed in walks and swimming and country air, and my mum was pretty strong too.
Were you aware of how the image was developing?
I think I'd have been a fool if I hadn't been aware. I mean, it was all over the place, and when you make two huge movies for kids that are full of good things, sweetness and light and nuns and children and mountains and Alps and all the rest, and magic, it would be odd if you didn't have all that. But I think the body of work these days speaks for itself. And, you know, it's the way it was. Why would I knock it? And I knew that they were acting roles. They weren't exactly what I am all about. I'm sure there's a piece of me in every one of those movies because I did do them. But I don't think that's the whole. At least I hope not. It would be too awful to be that sugary sweet. And
the face that launched 1,000 rave reviews has just launched a cruise ship.
Yes, I'm a godmother to a wonderful ship called the Crystal Serenity. I've never christened a ship before, so there I was with cannons booming and confetti falling and having a wonderful time.
It's so good to see you looking so well.
Thank you, Peter.
I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say that the legend lives and lives on.
Thank you. You're very kind.